Assalamu alaikum and good evening. This is Witness and I'm your host, Quatrina Hossain. As the opposition prepares for its first major public protest, which is scheduled to be held by the Pakistan Muslim League N from Lahore tomorrow, the government seems to be not worried. And surprisingly, the Pakistan Tehreek-e-Insaf, which has called its protest for Sunday, really seems to be battling the PML-N in Lahore. In fact, visitors to Lahore and residents of Lahore are saying that it is a battle of the banners because the PML-N and Pakistan Tehreek-e-Insaf are both busy in putting down and taking down each other's banners wherever and whenever they can. Obviously, the weight is in favor of the PML-N because you have the administrative machinery there to make sure that the banners are somewhat more protected than the Tehreek-e-Insaf, and residents of Lahore are watching that with some amusement. Nonetheless, for the government, it's business as usual, and Prime Minister Yusuf Raza Gilani found time to create 4 new ministries. The 4 new ministries, of course, are somewhat important. I'm not going to say that I think they're completely irrelevant, but same old, same old, same old. Mir Hazar Khan Bijrani, Samina Kurki, Istarullah Zehri, same ministers who were sort of roaming around after devolution are now being awarded these new ministries. Ministries are supposed to work. Ministers are supposed to deliver. The ministries that have been created, I really can't find fault with them. They are important subjects. They need to be looked at, and they would otherwise scatter. These ministries bring together. Let me just give you an idea, for example, that there's going to be a ministry for the National Heritage and Integration. And this will bring together the National Institute of Folk and Traditional Heritage of Pakistan, Cultural Pacts, Protocol, Qazi and Papers Wing, Pakistan Academy of Letters, Urdu Dictionary Board, so many things that are so important for a country's intellectual and cultural preservation and heritage. With Samina Gurki up to the job, we are only going to have to see. And then we're going to have a ministry that's going to be dealing with natural disaster management. And that brings together all the organizations, different ones that work on that. And there's going to be a Ministry for Regulation and Service Division, which brings together organizations like the Pakistan Medical Dental Council and various Red Crescent Society and various others. And the 4th ministry, of course, is the Ministry of National Food Security and Research Division, a critical ministry, but that's been awarded to Istarullah Zehri, who, of course, remains one of my least favorite people after the incident of Balochistan a few years ago when 5 women had been reportedly buried alive, and Senator Istarullah Zehri had said that it was part of cultural practice. Well, we are going to talk about what the opposition is up to, what they hope to achieve, and most importantly, what is fueling the unrest amongst the opposition parties in Pakistan. Joining me today, Shahid Khaqan Abbasi, an MNA from the Pakistan Muslim League N, whose party kicks it off tomorrow. My second guest today is Senator Haroon Akhtar from the Pakistan Muslim League. He is, of course, an opposition member because his faction of the PML, which they call themselves a like-minded group, has broken away from the PML-Q. So we have to see what their plans are in the near future. And on the phone is going to be Mehreen Anwar Raja, an MNA from the Pakistan People's Party. She'll join us via phone, and we will draw her into the conversation and ask what the government thinks about what the opposition is up to. But Mr. Abbasi, I will begin with you. The PML-N is going ahead with this go Zardari go, go Gilani go chants that we usually have heard in assemblies before, when Benazir Bhutto used to be leading those and saying, I forget which president, go Ghulam Ishaq go, I think it was. By just screaming and yelling and having protests of saying someone should go, doesn't make it happen, or does it?
Well, it's part of the process. The PML-N is articulating just what the public feels today. The public feels that the government is corrupt, that the government is incompetent, the government is not delivered. That is the popular feeling today. So through this method, I mean, we have agitated the issues in the parliament, outside the parliament. Now it's perhaps time to go to the streets, and Lahore is a natural choice, and that is what is happening tomorrow. But
how indicative is it of public support to launch this campaign in a city where your party holds sway already? I mean, Lahore belongs to the PML-N, so we know there's going to be a large turnout. How does that reflect the population of Pakistan?
So the greater the need to show your strength in a city where there is popular support, and that is how politics is done. So there's nothing unusual in using Lahore as the first platform, and this is not a province-wise show of strength. It's just a very local affair, and this
is a local affair.
It's a local affair. and it will hopefully continue into other cities in the Punjab.
So, Senator Haroon, what we are looking at as somewhat amused observers is that this literally is a PML-N PTI show of strength this weekend. Do you see it that way?
Not really, Quatrina. You see, every time there are elections, there are some different factors. This time, the different factor is Pakistan Tehreek-e-Insaf. And they are going for a change. They want change. That means that they want somebody who has not been there already and not performed. They are getting on the streets against PML-N as well as against the sitting government. And that is how they're going to find space. Because if they don't encroach the vote bank of PML-N as well as the vote bank of PPP, they don't have space. So in order to, their slogan is change.
Right.
But before you say something, I fail to understand what that change is, because first you have to quantify change. Change into what? And then you have to demonstrate that you're able to bring about that change. Now, how are you going to change the macroeconomic indicators? How are you going to change the law and order? How are you going to make dams? How are you going to improve the revenue? How are you going to go for a strategy drive?
Absolutely.
How are you going to do all those things?
Yeah.
And where's your team? So, Imran Khan is a good crowd puller. He has been a national hero. So, that is his asset, and he's going to demonstrate that. But he's been in this for 15 years now. We know he can pull crowds, but we want to see whether he can, he can deliver or not.
That's exactly the point I wanted to ask you, because his party was formed in 1996, if I'm not mistaken. Yes, 1996. And shortly after that, I remember a headline in a very well-reputed magazine of Pakistan, and it said, it had Imran Khan on the cover, and it said the third force. And there was no question mark after it. And Imran Khan fell flat on his face in the 97 election. Do you think the party has made strides since 97? Because it seems like they've made inroads into Punjab at least.
In 15 years, I would like to see a structure of the party. I would like to see their candidates in constituencies. I'd like to see who would be their main economic finance guy, who is going to be their commerce minister, who is going to be their energy minister, things like that, because that is what is going to make me believe that they will deliver the goods.
Right.
So he's certainly missing in that.
He's missing.
And he wants to go on a solo flight, and he thinks that everything will fall in place because it did for Zulfikar Ali Bhutto 40 years ago.
Right.
But I don't remember like that. I was a student, and I remember that Zulfikar Ali Bhutto had a tremendous team. He went and got capable people along with him in his movement. And that is why when he became the Prime Minister, he tried to bring about a change, which I think it did not work. The nationalization thing was totally failed, but that was the change that he had in mind. The change that Imran Khan has in mind, that vision, first of all, is not very clear, and second of all, I don't know how that is going to be achieved. It can be achieved, and this country needs change, for sure. This is the best time to go for that slogan, to bring about the change. But we have to see how that change is going to come about.
You can't tear down
tomorrow, if you become Prime Minister, if Imran Khan becomes Prime Minister, what is he going to do? How is he going to bring in about justice in the kacharis? How is he going to change the Thana culture, the police culture?
Yeah.
How is he going to change the land record culture? How is he going to remove the corruption? I mean, it's easy said than done. How are you going to do all those things?
Okay. Well, joining me now on the telephone is Mehreen Anwar Raja, representing the Pakistan People's Party. Ms. Raja, thank you so much for joining us today. And before you joined us, basically I was talking about the city of Lahore, which is of course your hometown as well, that Lahore is now facing a battle of the banners as the PML-N and PTI square it off for this weekend's rallies. But as the ruling Pakistan People's Party, what is your reaction to these two fairly well-publicized events that are going to happen this weekend?
Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Thank you, Quatrina. I think the race is the banners race, and on 28th and 30th, people will come to know what the real rallies are. I think this is an election year, and all the political parties, now they think these political parties who are taking out the rallies, they know that they have not won anything. So what to do in public?
Why would you say they haven't won anything? The PML-N just won a by-election.
Just winning one by-election doesn't mean that they have won all of Punjab. You see, it was a one Kashmir seat, and a request came from Punjab that the law position is not right, and the law and order is not, the position is not right, so this election cannot be held. So they are talking of elections. I think that PML-N and the other political parties, if they are doing the rallies, let them do it. It is a political thing. It is a political show. Let the people see.
It's also their democratic right.
I'll tell you one thing, Quatrina. The High Court has taken notice, and whosoever is a government functionary and government setup, if it is being used in this rallies, then I think law will take its course.
What do you mean by that, Ms. Raja?
I mean that this is not a PML-N rally, because Honorable Nawaz Sharif Sahab is not heading this rally. This is a government Punjab rally in which all the government, officials and all, not the high-grade officials, but you see the Patwari and these Pattadar people, all of them will be there.
Ms. Raja, I hate to bring this up then, because it seems rather, I'm not happy about mentioning this, but at Begum Nusrat Bhutto's funeral, the entire Pakistan People's Party was flown to Khaqan and Gari Khuda Bakhsh at government expense, was it not?
No,
because
no,
the CC meeting of the Pakistan People's Party held.
Quatrina, this is a part of record, but I must tell you, all the political workers, all the political Pakistan People's Party, they went on their own expenses, and this is not once. We go there twice in a year, and if you take out all the records, this is on the record. This is a record matter that Pakistan People's Party workers, all the MNAs.
What about the MNAs? And everybody pays for, because I know PIA like flies special flights. Who pays for that?
Special flight, excuse me, Quatrina, special flight is something different. But we pay each and every penny for the PIA. We can't do this. Special flight is something, if a flight gets late due to some weather problem or due to some technical problem.
No, I'm talking about unscheduled flights that are put into service on incidents.
No, I think this is no wrong. If a flight, if PI is getting fare and the fare is quite heavy.
So you're saying that your people pay for it?
Pardon?
You're saying that the Pakistan People's Party pays for it, the government of Pakistan does not?
Pakistan People's Party worker from his own pocket pays for it.
Okay. Fine. Mr. Abbasi, I think Mehreen Raja is making a point. Nawaz Sharif is not leading this rally. Shahbaz Sharif and Hamza Sharif are going to be, and they are the Punjab government. Is the government machinery going to be used in this?
Well, it's very visible. One can see if the government machinery is being used or not. And I think the time when Patwaris held jalsas, that time is in the past. It's long gone. That is not possible anymore. And public rallies of this kind are only held with popular support.
Let me ask you another very important question. Your rally takes place on the 28th. Tehreek-e-Insaf is going to hold their rally at Minar-e-Pakistan on the 30th. Are you going to allow that rally to take place? Are you going to facilitate it?
I don't think the government is creating any hindrance to that rally.
And doesn't plan to either?
I don't think so. I think there's no need for that. I think there's a freedom of expression.
Okay.
Whoever wants to hold a rally anywhere, they have to apply for it, get a permit, and hold the rally.
Hold the rally. Ms. Raja, one other important point, of course, I wanted to come to before we got slightly sidetracked here. If, and I'm going to underline the word if, the PML-N and the PTI put up good shows, and I suspect that they probably will, because Lahore is, of course, the strength of the PML-N. Pakistan Tehreek-e-Insaf, as we were talking earlier, Imran Khan is a crowd puller. What will your reaction be if those rallies really do muster those numbers? I mean, what is the government preparing?
Quatrina, PML-N has given a letter of rules and regulations. In the rally, you will not say anything about the government, and you will not put banners and something. I don't know. There are 5, 6, 10 points which they have given to the Imran Khan's party. I hope they abide by those rules themselves. But we, Pakistan People's Party, one of the biggest party of Pakistan, is not afraid of the political scenario. This is a political, evolution, and we are not afraid of it. And you will see in elections, the real result will come. And these kind of political shows dies down, because if you are having a big show, because you are in government and you are taking out rally from Nasir Bagh, which is, a rush place, and you are taking out rally from that place to the Bhati gate, that, but I want to say one thing, that on 28th and on 30th, my, political wishes are with them. Let them do their show, their banner show. People will come to know. They tried to hijack the last time when people came out because of the load shedding, energy problem, energy management, and they thought that people have come out for them. Where were the people when they were coming from, Saudi to Pakistan? Where were people? Did they go to the airport? You see, look at the show on at that time.
Okay,
I don't have any.
I'm glad that she's admitted.
I have my.
You have your reservations.
I'm glad
Okay.
that she's admitted.
Fair
I'm glad that she's admitted. It's not only the political parties that are against the government. It's also the people of Pakistan who are against the government.
Okay, but very, very importantly, Senator, your party now has yet to declare itself for any alliance with any other political party. We sort of had the feeling and somewhat confirmed off the record that your party was pretty much going to be joining the PML-N, but no formal anything has happened. Any constitutional bar on that, or are you simply not ready to declare yet?
No, we don't have to declare alliances. It's up to us. If there is a mutual interest between two parties, we're going to move ahead with an alliance.
Because your party people were there when the PML-N held its protest from Parliament to the President House.
Are primarily made before the election. We already are part of the joint opposition in the Senate and in the National Assembly.
Okay.
And that's where we join hands with PML-N. So that already we have announced.
So will you be supporting that rally tomorrow in Lahore?
Our number one purpose of splitting from the original PMLQ, headed by the Chaudhurys, was that we were not going to be a part of the government. We are not going to sit with the government whom we criticized for 3.5 years. And we are going to try to keep the Muslim Leagues together. We do not want anybody else to encroach on the vote bank of Muslim League, because together I think we can bring about that change that the people of Pakistan need.
Right.
Because we have the structure. It's unfortunate that we got split due to different political reasons. But if we get together, we have the structure, we have the people, we have the talent, and we have demonstrated in the past, and we can bring about the change that this country desperately needs. Okay. Now, what is our future policy? We are already in very advanced negotiations about an election alliance with PML-N, and there is good progress. It's not final, but there is good progress on that.
Well, we saw your leaders pretty much with the PML-N and the Dharna.
Doesn't matter, we are in opposition, we can be sitting with anybody, but we don't have a formal alliance yet.
Yeah. Okay, we're going to take a short break over here. When we return, we particularly want to talk to Mehreen Raja about the word change. The word change is used frequently. So what change is the Pakistan People's Party prepared to deliver? This and more after a short break. Please stay with us. And welcome back to Witness. We are going to be talking about change. Change, is it possible? Is it doable? The changes I see in Pakistan and the changes that worry the people whom we talk to, listen to, who write to us, those changes are not even being discussed. And Mr. Abbasi, here's the concern now. Sometimes I feel that there's such a disconnect between the politicians of Pakistan, the legislators of Pakistan, and the people of Pakistan at different levels. The change that I am seeing, obviously, is for the worse. Increasing conservatism, increasing extremist thought, I'm not talking about extremism that leads to terrorism. I'm talking about the views that Pakistan is increasingly becoming a more polarized society between liberal, non-liberals, and people are now willing to kill to project their point of view. Do these changes in Pakistan, this is not the Pakistan that I was raised in, this is not the Pakistan any of us was raised in. Do these changes not bother you?
Of course they bother, they're real issues. So they do bother everybody. But these are issues that need to be addressed. And they can only be addressed through a political process. I think that's where the problem has been. We've had so many commas and full stops in the process. If we look at the PML-N parliamentary party today, which is over 90 strong, there's only 7 people who've been in parliament before. So whenever you have, and it takes time to develop into individual who understands parliament, who understands government, who can deliver governance, it takes time.
Let me ask you a question that has been on the minds of a lot of people, including myself. The PML-N showed a very conservative streak in their previous tenures. Is that conservative streak still there?
No, the PML-N has been a conservative party, and I don't think there's anything wrong with that. The PML-N has followed policies of liberalization. Economic liberalization started with the PML-N, the privatization process, the opening of the economy. Even at the social level, there is to the rightist approach, and I think the people of Pakistan, it's a conservative society.
How come there's no office bearer in your party, except for Temina Doltana? There's no other woman who holds a senior party position in your party.
Well, there are many. There's a women's wing, which is headed by...
I'm not talking about women's wing. I'm talking about the Pakistan Muslim League N at a national level. Where are the women who are your ministers? Where are the women who are your party leaders?
Well, it's not... I think the absence of women at that level does not reflect an attitude against women in that sense.
Are you sure?
But it's just that, yes, absolutely. It's just that
so this is something I will bring up again and again because with your party, because this is a continuing problem that we see as observers, that we see that the PML-N, with its conservative mindset, could very well be not capable of pushing back the forces of extremist thought.
I think our record is very clear on that. Our record reflects the PML-N has a very centrist approach. We've unfortunately had a lot of people break away during Musharraf's regime. So perhaps many of the women candidates that we used to have aren't there anymore. But again, through alliances and all these things, we can build up that base again. Again, as I said, it takes time to build leadership.
Okay. We're going to, we are rejoined now by Mehreen Raja. She had to leave us for a couple of minutes. Ms. Raja, very, very important question now. Before the break, I said we were going to talk about change and how different people perceive it. I'm bringing up my own concerns over here. Now, the Prime Minister has just nominated 4 new federal ministers, and I actually went through that list and their responsibilities, and I could not really find fault with the creation of those ministries and the responsibilities they have. But I certainly found it strange that your party again chose to put up the same old people. Mr. Bijrani, Samina Gurki, and of all people, Senator Esrarullah Zehri, whose record in Parliament and out has been not at all in consonance with the manifesto of the Pakistan People's Party. Why?
Quatrina, you were talking about what change Pakistan People's Party wants to bring and what change we are working on. You see, giving ministries, this is a regular thing. There is nothing wrong with it.
I'm talking about the selection of the people that you have chosen for these ministers.
Given to, excuse me, if ministries are given to Samina Gurki, Bijrani Sahab, and our other parliamentarians, I think Samina Gurki and Bijrani Sahab, both of them are quite competent.
What do you think of Esrarullah Zehri?
I think good for him also. But you see, we have
no, Ms. Raja, this is my question. Esrarullah Zehri stands...
Can I complete, Quatrina?
Please.
I'll answer all questions. I'll not, you see, leave you without answering. I'll answer all questions. But let me tell you what Pakistan People's Party wants to bring the change. Have you seen that we have done the FATA reforms after 100 years? In these 60 years of Pakistan life, Not anything has been done for Balochistan, but in these 3 years, a lot of work has been done for Balochistan. NFC award, what do you talk of? We have done the 18th Amendment. And what is 18th Amendment? 18th Amendment, all the powers of the President, we have given it to the Parliament. Now you talk about what a local man, what a common man is getting. You see, we have given a position, we have given a direction. And this is what big political parties' work is. Now, if after giving the direction, Pakistan People's Party wants that all provinces who were asking for provincial autonomy, we have given the provincial autonomy also. Now they should sit, now they should work instead of these rallies, which will not help them even. Which will, you see, not help them, and I think the exchequer money is also being used on this. They should work how to make committees and how to fulfill the demand of a common man. If you are taking out rally because there is corruption, there is load shedding, and there is, things which are not under control, what are you doing in Punjab? You are.
Let me ask them.
Look at the rate of the dal, the rice, the flour, and what are they doing? In 18th Amendment, we have given all the powers to the Chief Minister. They can make their own energy, not exceeding 50 megawatts. This is there in the Constitution. Why are you doing nothing on it? I just want to
let them have a chance to respond.
Quatrina, I just want to say one thing. I don't want to criticize any political party till they are working something and doing something for the common man. I can sit for hours and hours with you and I can debate that Pakistan People's Party is one of the largest party in Pakistan who has brought change.
Okay, you made your points, all of them. Senator Haroon Akhtar, Mehreen Raja went through a list of the achievements of the government. Your response?
Yes, some of these are their achievements, but they cannot dwell on them for the rest of their lives. I mean, they cannot dwell on their leaders, Zulfikar Ali Bhutto, for the rest of their lives. They have to do more. And like the United States have got to do more this time for the people of Pakistan.
This time for the people of Pakistan.
And we are talking, the change I am
Ms.
talking
Raja,
about.
now you have to be patient.
Yeah, just
Ms. Raja, you have to be patient. They were patient, now you have to be patient.
The change I am talking about, Mehreen, just a second. The change I am talking about is in education, in creativity, in knowledge, in opening up the economy more, in bringing back the confidence of our own people to invest in this country, of the people outside this country to invest in this country, of making dams, of getting rid of load shedding, gas shedding. This is the change I'm talking about. The change in the Thana culture, the change in the land record thing, the change in the mindsets of people about corruption.
I just settled for
building
reducing
infrastructure.
domestic
This
borrowing.
is the change because we can do it. Our neighbors are doing it. We have the potential. That's the change I'm talking about. We can go on who did what and who did wrong. We all must have made mistakes, some of them blunders. But let's forget that. Let's move ahead. And these things that are happening are moving towards a change. If they're able to convince the people that these parties will bring about change, those are the parties that are going to get votes.
Those are the parties going to get. Mr. Abbasi, no, Ms. Raja, you have to give everybody a chance. And Shahid Khaqan Abbasi also needs to respond to what you said. Mehreen Anwar Raja is making a point that they have done a lot, and now provincial autonomy means that the PML-N should also be looking after affairs at home in Punjab.
I think the lady is not aware of how the government's work.
She was a State Minister for Law and Justice and Parliamentary Affairs.
Well, just look at law and justice in the country. So, all I can say is that the economy is controlled by the actions of the federal government.
Yes.
So, if the federal government is borrowing at the rate of ₹1 trillion a year, then you will have inflation, unfortunately.
Yes,
that's a fact of life. If the domestic debt has increased by 30% in less than 2 years, you will have inflation. So, there's nothing that the provinces can do about it.
And
so
the IMF is now signaling, I was reading today in the paper that the indicators that are coming in from the IMF are really scary. They're basically saying that you're heading towards a crisis from which there may be no recovery.
Absolutely, and that the government is totally either unaware or they don't want to admit what the economic problem of the country today, how bad it is. They don't even want to address the issues. I'm on the finance committee of the parliament, We've not had a significant meeting for over a year and a half now.
You're kidding.
Absolutely. No significant meeting. The whole budgetary process passed without the committee ever having a meeting. So this is the state of affairs. This is the mindset in the government today. So when you talk of achievements, where are the achievements? The people are fed up with this government, and people looking at elections as a possible solution.
Okay, do you think that street agitation is going to pave the way for a change in government?
It always does. It reflects the mood of the people. The people are fed up with the government and they want change. So that change will hopefully come through the elections at the polling stations.
Is there any concern whatsoever between both you gentlemen that any unrest right now, whether it's because politically led or otherwise, could lead, unfortunately, to a military intervention?
Peaceful. It's
what about military
policy.
intervention?
It should be, and their policy too. It has to be a peaceful protest.
Okay.
So
parties
are very careful about that.
Yeah.
I mean,
it's not going to stay peaceful when you move out of Punjab.
No, it's not only a question of being a peaceful protest. It's a protest within the political process.
Okay.
If it's a protest outside the political process, then you're looking at chaos, anarchy, and non-democratic intervention.
Okay, so you're going to make sure that it stays.
We've been very cognizant of that from day one. I think for the last 3.5 years, that is what we've said. We've been accused of being a friendly opposition because of that.
Because of that. Now, Ms. Raja, one very critical question in all of this, of course, is the fact that the People's Party cannot deny the fact that under its watch, Pakistan's debt has virtually doubled. Well, actually, that's not incorrect. Let me rephrase this. In 3.5 years, the borrowing done by the Pakistan People's Party government is almost equal to the borrowing done by combined governments for 60 years. Has your economic and fiscal policy... 7,000. Has your economic and fiscal policy simply not failed? I mean, where is the concern of the government on these issues?
Quatrina, let me answer all the questions my honorable parliamentarians put up. One of the honorable senators said that what have we done? Now let me tell you what we have done. You see, for so many years, Gilgit-Baltistan was not having all the share power. Now it is having that. After 100 years, we did FATA reforms.
You mentioned all these, Ms. Raja. The point is...
Now let me tell. That they were asking that we have to do more. The dictatorship had uninterrupted 8.5 years and they did nothing. Now let me tell you, stock option program. Now President Asif Ali Zardari Sahab talks about the currency swap, Iran gas pipeline. And let me tell you one thing more, that a political leader work is to make bonds, not to, separate things. Now, the people who are talking of Punjab and my...
Ms. Raja, can you answer the question? Can you please answer the question?
Please let me complete, and I am telling you that I'll answer all the questions. The honorable parliamentarian is saying that the lady doesn't know anything. Let the honorable parliamentarian know that the overdraft of Punjab government is increasing. 5 billion rupees they have to pay for the electricity bills which they have not paid. Now let me again add one thing. The government, the political government of Pakistan People's Party sitting now has done the Mangla raising and the Bhasha Dam. We have started it. This is what we have done. And look at the list of your things which you have not done. Now, Quatrina, one thing which is very important is in what condition we have taken the government. Look at the law and order situation. Look at the law and order situation.
Ms. Raja, I know you're not a finance person, but I really am now tempted to bring up the financial issues. The previous government left you a circular debt of, if I'm not mistaken, sir, rupees 50 billion. And your government has managed to take that to 600 billion, of which half is parked in a separate account and 300 billion is
growing every day.
And Ms. Raja, come on.
If my honorable parliamentarians and my honorable people from the province can pay their due share, I hope the debts will come.
All right, Ms. Raja, then let me ask you one more question. One more question, ma'am.
Very important. Let us not criticize. Let us not criticize the political people. Let us
Can
see
we not
what
ask
we have
questions?
done. You see, they have not done anything in 3.5 years. Now they
Ms.
are...
Raja, I'm asking you questions.
What have they done in Punjab for dengue? People are dying.
People are dying, Quatrina. This is very serious. People are dying in Punjab. What have they done? Look at the education board. The students are crying. You see, their future has been darkened.
Ms. Raja, I'll come to all those points. I just have a simple question. The government of Pakistan has been borrowing up to between 2 to 3 billion rupees a day from the State Bank, according to figures published in the Economic Survey of Pakistan. These are not figures that I'm pulling out of thin air.
Quatrina, in the last program also I replied to your question, and you know in the break time I called the Secretary of Finance. Let me make it clear, we are not printing any money, and
I'm talking about borrowing, that was printing.
No, let me complete. First, because I want to answer and I want to satisfy all of your questions. We are not printing any money, and all the debts which are taken from the State Bank, they at the end of the day they are being given back, and that everything is being done.
Are you telling me that you're repaying?
Everything is being done according to rules, Quatrina. Let me make it very clear, and this is a matter of record, that everything is being done according to rules.
What would you say, Ms. Raja, to the man who died while waiting for his pension for Pakistan Railways is broke? PIA's planes are grounded for lack of spare parts. Your state institutions are falling apart, Ms. Raja.
Quatrina, the man who died, I'm sorry for that. Things should have been taken in,
Yes.
process, which management process, it should be quick. But I feel sorry for him. But that doesn't, a kind of a mismanagement doesn't mean failure. For God's sake, understand these things. Why can't you see what Pakistan People's Party has done? Why can't you see that what President Asif Ali Zardari, Prime Minister Yusuf Rizal Gilani has done? Why can't you see all these things which were not being done in 60 years, which was being demanded? The provincial autonomy was demanded.
Okay, it's time for me to take a break.
Give me a list of Punjab government, what Punjab government has done. Are people are dying or not of dengue? Where are the sprays in May and June? Why are people dying now? Why are the board, the students are crying?
I'll ask these questions. I'll put these questions to Mr. Shahid Khaqan Abbasi, but after a short break. So please stay with us. Welcome back to Witness. Before the break, Mehreen Anwar Raja strongly criticized the Punjab government for failing to deal with the problems of dengue. People were dying, she said. She also said that the Punjab government has managed to mess up the futures of all the students whose results were messed up by some problem in the computer-generated results and stuff. I have to admit, Mr. Abbasi, that was a debacle.
No, there are problems, and we have to admit our problems. They had a new examination system which had flaws, and those issues are being addressed. Dengue is a disease, and if you look at any accounts, independent accounts available there, the disease grows exponentially. And I can tell you that through the personal efforts of the Chief Minister, if he had not stepped in and took personal charge of the thing, the disease would have grown exponentially, and you would have hundreds of thousands of people in the hospitals. It would have overwhelmed. This disease basically kills by overwhelming the health system in the country.
Yes, it happened in India about 10 years ago.
And it has been contained.
There's a big but here.
Yeah.
I have a but. You just now said that Chief Minister Shehbaz Sharif had not stepped in personally.
Yeah.
My concern is that in everything, why do we need Chief Minister Shehbaz Sharif or President Zardari to say, give 500,000 rupees to the family of the man who died? Shehbaz Sharif has to step in and deal with the dengue problem. Any crisis in this country, until the top gets involved, nothing moves. Where are the systems? So
that's the unfortunate part. The systems are failing, but in a crisis situation, leadership has to take over. This was a crisis. Okay. In the normal system of governance, yes, the system should work. But here is an extraordinary situation, which was, I think, handled very well. The dengue is a disease. Hopefully, the People's Party is not a disease. So, what I'm saying is, the People's Party should address the issues of the country.
Okay.
That is their job, and that's what they should be doing. That is where they failed.
Okay, and before Mr. Raja to respond to that, Senator, would you like to
say a
just
word on the dengue thing?
On the dengue,
as
and
a neutral
also,
empire.
Ms. Raja made some statement. She said that the domestic borrowing, State Bank is being repaid, and she said the government is not printing money. And in fact, I do remember she was here on our program last time. She called somebody very senior in the finance ministry and then gave us this information. So why are we then getting the, why is the IMF telling us we are falling apart? Opposition, all of you are telling us we're falling apart.
Yeah,
the ministry
let me answer that quickly.
Just read the quarterly report on the Pakistan economy by the State Bank. It just came out last, and you will see the facts there.
See the facts.
It's not my
Let me
report.
make a quick remark on dengue. Epidemics are always a crisis situation. Okay. So Shahid is right. It was a crisis.
And it needed.
Yeah, there might have been some lapses because this kind of an epidemic to this extent has never happened. So you can say that there were lapses initially, but the way this Punjab government has handled it now, and the way they're tackling it, and they're getting international help, and they are improving the standard of hospitals, the standard of cleanliness. It's a fantastic job, and we should give them credit for that. Okay, if somebody does a good thing, we should appreciate that and give them credit for that. As far as borrowing is concerned, you took the numbers on November 15, 2007. The total debt of the government of Pakistan was 5,000 billion. Today, it's coming close to 12,000 billion. So they have borrowed 7,000 billions in 3.5 years. My simple question is that in the last 3 years, the fiscal deficit has been around 3,000 billion. So in order to finance the fiscal deficit of 3,000 billions, you have borrowed 7,000 billions. So the difference is 4,000 billion. Out of that, 1,000 billion was due to devaluation. So there is 3,000 billion unaccountable, which went to places which we don't know to cover up our expenses. And if this 7,000 billion was put in the economy the right way, in the public sector development program, in making education institutions, in making the infrastructure, in bringing in power plants, in bringing in gas pipelines, I would have said yes, and that would have been reflective in the economy. As far as the State Bank is concerned, yes, they have done a gimmickry, because rather than borrowing from State Bank, now the government is borrowing from the commercial banks, but the State Bank is lending more money to the commercial banks, adding the M2 money supplies, and it is giving it will have the same impact on inflation. So they have not done anything because they have to have alternate resources to borrow money, but nobody is ready to lend the money. They can't go out, they can't have GDRs, they can't have convertible bonds, they can't sell their bonds. It's selling your public sector company shares outside Pakistan. It's like a share deposit, global depository receipt, it's called GDR. So on that count, I don't think anything has changed. IMF is saying that instead of the government expectation of 4% fiscal deficit, they're going to end up with over 6%.
That's what the IMF said today.
If the economy is going to be 22 trillion, 6% on that is between 1,300 and 1,400 billion rupees, and where is that going to be funded from? That's the problem.
That's the problem.
And the GDP that they forecasted for 4%, IMF is saying it's going to be around 2.5 or 2.6%.
Exactly.
Their average GDP growth in the last 3 years is 2.5%.
Which is
what we left from 2002 to 2007 was an average of 7% growth. An average inflation of 7%. They have an average inflation of 14%.
12%.
No, the average in the last 3 years, because 1 year was 25%. 1 year was 25%.
Ms. Raja, these are very scary statistics, and I've read these in international magazines as well. Your government can't really deny these figures, but why aren't you addressing them?
Quatrina, we are addressing all the problems, and you see, we are very much politically sound, and we'll control all
But economically in big trouble.
Let me answer, and let me start from what my honorable colleagues have said. My honorable colleague, the Senator Haroon Sahab, what did they do in 8.5 in uninterrupted dictator years? They gave, you see, now they are supporting PML-N. First they supported the dictator. What did they do? All the money in that era, in that time frame was of 9/11. They did
Ms. Raja, in all honesty, your party is now sitting with the PMLQ. What difference does it make?
Excuse me. If our party is sitting, now they have political...
No, please complete that. Your party is now sitting with the PMLQ.
Let me complete first. My party is sitting. My party is doing the best job, constitutional, under all the rules and regulations. But my honorable colleague said, and admitted that the policy and the project in the Punjab has failed. He has not said that it has been mismanaged. He has confessed, admitted himself that it has failed. You see, now about dengue, my honourable colleague was saying.
Briefly, ma'am, I'm running out of time now.
No, my honourable colleague said that yes, the CM is doing a lot of work for dengue. I appreciate the Janab Shahbaz Sharif, but the work has been done late. Where was the committees, the people in May, June when the lava was, coming out? The spray was.
Right, Mr. Raja. We're running out of time. I need to give the last minute to Shahid, Khaqan, Abbasi, and Mr. Abbasi. Where is the economic vision of this government?
There is no economic vision. From day one, look at the number of changes in the finance ministry, the ministers and the secretaries. There is no direction.
Can I ask you a blunt question? I don't know if you have the answer. Do you think that the ministry mandarins are misleading this government?
I don't think so, because it's a job of the political masters to give direction to the mandarins. That is not there. That is where the government has absolutely failed. And the bigger failure is that they do not even recognize the issues. They are not even aware of how severe the problems are. That is where they have failed.
And that's really scary.
It's very scary.
I'm afraid we're going to have to leave it there. I'm out of time. I'd like to thank my guests, Shahid, Khaqan, Abbasi, Senator Haroon Akhtar, and Mehreen Anwar Raja for having joined me here tonight on Witness. Well, tomorrow, of course, will be the big public protest of the Pakistan Muslim League N, followed by Pakistan Tehreek-e-Insaf 2 days later. Now, the question really is that amidst a backdrop of these political protests, which are being dismissed by the government, the real issue is not anything more than one simple fact, articulated perhaps best by a certain American politician. It's the economy, stupid. That is the bottom line in all this. We are in a critical situation, and ignoring it will not make it go away. And to pick up on a simple quote of Senator Haroon Akhtar, where is that 3,000 billion rupees that is simply missing? This and more, but it'll have to be next week, because we hope that you have a good weekend. If you're in Lahore, check out the fun, and if not, stay home and watch TV. Quatrina saying Khuda Hafiz from Islamabad.